Hi, George Rogers here. I'm your host with the Choice Skills Show. Those of you who may have been following this show may have noticed that I've not been on air for a few weeks. Had some health problems, so I apologize for that, but I'm going to try to get back at it here. Not perfect yet, but some important things to talk about. And today I want to talk to you a little bit about a very surprising thing that happened, at least to me, last week. As you know, the purpose of this TV show is to help us understand better how we can help our young people learn to make good choices. After all, the name of the organization I'm with is Choice Skills, and we claim to supply the missing piece in education. And what's the missing piece in education? Choice skills. The ability to make sound, responsible choices on a consistent basis. And we're trying to help provide tools to parents and teachers to help them help their young people do this. And we believe that youth today are at risk, all youth, because we live in a rapidly changing world characterized by commotion, confusion, and contradiction, making it a rather dangerous place to live on many occasions. Now, what took place last week was in the South Carolina primary. And it's a perfect example in my mind of the confusion and contradiction that exists in people's minds today. I mean, this is classic. If it weren't so serious, I think it could even be humorous. I think as a humorist you could really make something out of this. But the point is that in that debate, the moderator started it by asking Newt Gingrich, one of the candidates, about a revelation that his former second wife had made earlier in the day. That while he was Speaker of the House, and by the way, at that point in time, he was actively involved in the impeachment, trying to get impeachment hearings going for President Clinton because of his affair with Monica Lewinsky. And so he had that history going for him, and at that point in time, it was revealed that he was having an affair with one of his staffers. And now his wife, and that's all public knowledge, and now last week his wife, former wife, revealed, if she's telling the truth, that he had come to her requesting an open relationship, saying in essence that he wanted to stay married to her, but he wanted to continue his relationship with his mistress. And she refused, and then he went on to marry the mistress, or the former staffer. Well, at any rate, so the moderator began the debate by asking Mr. Gingrich if he would care to comment upon that. And he did comment upon it, denying categorically that he had requested an open relationship with his former spouse. And frankly, that wasn't surprising to me. That's what I would expect a man in his position to say, and I don't know whether he's telling the truth or whether she was telling the truth. It seemed to me that he has more to gain by not telling the truth than she had to gain by not telling the truth. But in any event, he denied it. And then he did something rather interesting. He turned to the moderator and he said, "I am appalled that you would ask such a question in a presidential debate." Now again, that doesn't surprise me so much. What surprised me was the audience response, because there was a great roar of approval and clapping, and at that point in time the moderator was cowed from asking any further questions. What seemed to me the most important question on the table was, do you, Mr. Gingrich, or do you, South Carolina audience, believe that fidelity is an important quality in a President of the United States? Is marital fidelity an indication of a person's moral character? And is that a quality that is important in a President of the United States? Well, obviously, the audience did not seem to think so, which is so surprising to me, because this was a group who were dubbed as Evangelical Christians, who seemed to take very strong stands on moral issues, members of the Tea Party, and conservative Republicans, very conservative people in South Carolina there apparently, and who have sort of taken a pretty strong stand on moral issues. And yet in this particular case, the issue of fidelity did not seem to be an important quality they were looking for. Perhaps because Mr. Gingrich is articulating other ideas that they are so passionate about. I'm not quite sure why. But at any rate, this has to be an example of contradiction and confusion in people's minds. Because if fidelity is not an important quality in a President of the United States, I don't know who would be important in. I know that fidelity in marital relationships is important to many spouses, because when it's violated, they feel violated. They feel cheapened and lessened by a person's lack of fidelity in those relationships. And that's true, frankly, with any high-trust relationship. To me, it kind of comes back to this notion, if a person will steal a dime or a quarter or a dollar from someone, if they feel they can get away with it, they might just as be willing, in fact they're more likely to be just as willing to steal $500,000 or $1 million or whatever it is they can get easily without getting caught or without being held accountable for it. So to me, fidelity is a huge issue in human relationships. It's a huge issue in certainly members that represent us in our public bodies, because once people get into positions of power, we've often observed that that it's easy enough to abuse those positions of power if your lusts, if your ambitions, if your desires are of a nature to allow you to do that. So anyway, I raise this as a question to think about, because to me it seems a very intriguing, if somewhat disturbing, kind of an example of the confusion and contradiction that exists in people's minds, and certainly an evidence of why young people are having so much difficulty in their own minds deciding what's right and wrong, having so much difficulty in their own minds recognizing good ideas from bad ideas. Well, I'm going to be talking a little bit more about this next week. I have an article from the New York Times, a fairly recent article, that I want to talk with you about for a few minutes. At any rate, I thank you for joining me today. I wish you best for the next week, and look forward to seeing you next week. Again, it's George Rogers with Choice Skills.